to Strictly Sports. I am Jacob Brown, joined as always with CJ Uri. We are here to do episode, I think we're on 15 now for Strictly Sports here. We haven't done an episode since our Andy Seeley interview, which was a lot of fun, by the way. CJ, do you want to talk about that a little bit, about our interview with Andy?
Yeah, it was really nice to speak with Andy. He was a great guest on the show. He was very knowledgeable, and he, treated us just like he would treat any of the people that worked in his athletic department, which was really neat. I'm looking forward to seeing him at future FAU Owl sporting events, whether that be baseball, football, basketball, whatever it may be. He's a great guy to talk to. I was able to speak to him on the phone yesterday. He's just giving me some tips and pointers for when I graduate. That's the kind of guy he is. So I thought it was great to have him on, and he gave us some really cool insight and information. And we on the show, I know that you and Steve, we want to get more people like that from the FAU community on our show just to talk about sports. So we're going to continue to do that and strive to get these people on.
Yeah, absolutely. And you could just tell that he not only cares about our futures, but he cares about like what we say. And he kept asking us for our advice on marketing advice and good ideas for the student section and what he can do to market the team. And it just shows how FAU really cares about the students, and that's really great to see as an FAU student myself, and you of course too. So now let's talk about what everyone's thinking right now about winter sports coming back. There's so much drama in basically all of the sports. Right now, the NFL is kind of the one that they're not really saying much right now. They're basically saying, we have our schedule. We've released our schedules. We've given everyone their opponents. We're playing come September. They haven't really said anything regarding training camp or OTAs. So that information, as it comes along, we'll give it to you. But the NFL hasn't really said much. They shouldn't. We're really not at the time to really give any details for the NFL. Same thing with college football as well. The SEC, though, is kind of the most adamant they're going to play. But now we move to the NBA and NHL, and this is where it really gets interesting because these are the two sports that are kind of gaining traction. Saw a report about an hour ago about the NBA. They are seriously considering, and this is the number one option now, to play at Disney World in Orlando. So all the teams would go there, play at ESPN's Wide World of Sports. I think it makes too much sense. ESPN, who carries the NBA Finals, owned by Disney. They have the facilities at ESPN Wide World of Sports. I've been there. It's a huge arena with like 20 basketball courts inside. So you could have games going on virtually all day. Again, ESPN owns the NBA rights for the NBA Finals. I don't know how they would do it with TNT. But bottom line, it looks like the most convenient place as well. Disney also owns all the hotels on site. So it'd be really a perfect place. What do you think about that, CJ, with the NBA?
I think it's really interesting. And my concern isn't even necessarily where they're going to play. I think that the NBA, out of all the sports right now that are contemplating like coming back, whether it be soccer across the pond, NHL, MLB, I think the NBA is in a spot where they just can't not play out the season. And here's why: this Last Dance that just aired and just finished furthers the motivation for LeBron to chase after Michael Jordan, and the NBA doesn't have the ability to waste a playoff run of LeBron's. I mean, LeBron was on arguably the best team in the league right now. They're favorites to go on to the finals at the very least, or at least the Western Conference Finals. They do not have the luxury in saying, look, we'll just resume next October or next November. They have to let LeBron play out this season. And quite frankly, there's way too many good storylines going on, way too many good matchups in round one, just alone, for them to not just play it out even with no fans. So I love the initiative, and I really hope something gets done. Basketball, especially at ESPN Wide World of Sports, would be perfect because of, as you said, they have the facilities to do it. The NHL, they're in a little bit more of a peculiar spot with the hotels and where they're going to play. It's going to have to probably be spread out across the country. But the NBA, you can really have everyone on site and get it done. So I think that this is a great way to finish up the season and to see us watch LeBron chase greatness.
Yeah, and another reason why, like you bring up, just be ashamed to see the season end because of all the storylines. People forget about this too. Like, there's a lot of people on contracts. Kawhi and Paul George, they're on short 2-year deals with the Clippers. Anthony Davis might be a free agent and leave LA. Who knows what's happening with Giannis? This might be like the last year you could see the teams and the way it's all set up right now. So I think that's a really interesting thing to think about. And as far as the NHL goes, I actually saw a report, I think an hour or two ago, said now that the NBA is thinking that they might go to Disney, the NHL is considering Las Vegas as their number one choice as of right now for one of their hub cities. The difference between the NHL and NBA right now, the NHL said they're going to have to play in multiple different locations because they're doing a 2014 playoff, so it's going to require way more, facilities and stuff like that. But I think Vegas would be perfect for the NHL because not only do they have T-Mobile Arena for the Vegas Golden Knights, they also have the MGM Hotel where they used to play preseason NHL games every year. So they definitely have multiple places where they could play games there. And then everyone knows there's hotels in Vegas, plenty of places for the players and teams to stay. So, 2014 playoff, it would be a little bit different. Both leagues are kind of on the same timeline, probably mid-July return. Do you think the NHL can work with this 2014 format?
I think they can, and I think that this is the only fair way to do it. I think it'd be really cool to see too. I mean, there's the thing about the NHL is anyone who follows it knows that the final week and a half, 2 weeks of the season, whoever thinks that they're firmly in a wild card spot or a fringe playoff team, there's always two or three teams that sneak in. So this is the only fair way to do it is include the teams that were on the bubble. And a 2014 playoff includes the teams that are on the bubble, and I'm sure that those teams or a point or two out would be playing teams like what's the St. Louis Blues, the Boston Bruins. So those one seeds are probably sitting there like, well, what we don't like. That's not fair to have a 2014 playoff. Well, hey, look, you guys are going to be playing the worst seeds.
Yeah,
So
right.
at that point, you can't really ask for much more. I'm sure that the first round or two 14 format will be the first round or two. I'm sure will be shorter. I doubt that there's 7 game series. I'm sure that there will be some play-in series, so it's going to be interesting. But the 2014 playoff is the only way you can do it in the NHL. The NBA has the luxury of, well, our 9 seeds were so far off that we're just going to take the first 8 in each conference and just go on from there and just do our normal seeding. The NHL is in a really peculiar spot, but they too, I don't think are going to waste the season. I think they're going to play it out.
Yeah, and just to address Stephen Cashin, our co-host, point, we were on the group chat together. He didn't actually like the 24 team idea. He thinks it's too many teams. I can understand that point. I just think when
Coming
you're
from a Lightning fan who's firmly in a playoff spot, a dick.
yeah, right. But I mean, like I'm for it. You're for it. You're a Panthers fan. I'm a Rangers fan. Like we want this 24 team thing. I can understand how it's too much, but in a season like this, you kind of have to let some things go.
Yeah, I mean, 24 teams might be a little steep there. I can see I can see the league doing this the 8, 7, 8, 9, and 10 seeds for both conferences doing some sort of a play-in type scenario. Just because the 8 seed, 7 seed, I know for the Eastern Conference was definitely not down cemented by whoever it was. I'm pretty sure the Columbus Blue Jackets were up there for that 8th seed, and they just sustained an incredible amount of injuries, and they were playing some bad hockey while the teams below them, like the Rangers and the Panthers, were playing some really good hockey to get into the playoffs. So this is the only way to do it, in my opinion. The good thing is that people are underestimating about this whole thing is that these athletes are rested now. They got a full offseason, full 70% of an offseason thrown into the middle of their season. So all these teams that have had injuries and had some stars that were going to be injured going into their playoff runs are not going to have to worry about that anymore. I, as a Panthers fan, am very happy that Barkov and Huberdeau are going to come back and be fully healthy, not banged up right now, and that's huge for the Florida Panthers. And I'm sure the Rangers had a few guys that had some injuries and were nursing some problems.
Shesterkin, right?
That we're going to be out for 8 weeks, 8 to 12 weeks. They're not going to be out anymore, and you're going to be able to see them in action. So this there's a little bit of a blessing in disguise there, although we would have rather have seen some hockey being played. But who knows what they're going to do? But I'm sure those bottom teams out of that 24-team playoff thing are going to have to do some sort of a play, and it won't just be a 24-team March Madness bracket.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just cool to see just a 1 year thing, and they just got to let stuff go at the end of the day. And another team too, Columbus. You just mentioned them. I mean, they had 18 injuries. I think a lot of those guys are going to be back. especially I know that Seth Jones will, and he's their best defenseman other than Werenski. That's a huge deal in getting back. And then we could talk about baseball coming back, but that would be like a 45-minute discussion because right now I'll just sum it up quickly and then we can move on to another subject. I might even do an extra pod myself with Steven, maybe just describing it because there's just so much stuff going on in baseball right now. Because the way the league is set up is so different. The players' union and the owners, they've had a history of kind of disagreeing with each other, not really getting along in these types of situations. The difference between baseball and these other leagues, baseball is not a salary cap, meaning that's revenue sharing. So right now, what the owners are proposing to the players is some sort of a revenue sharing salary cap type situation, but only for this year. And the players are like, no, we don't want that at all. They hate salary cap. Baseball doesn't want it at all. So they have not really had a rebuttal yet. They are totally against that proposition for Major League Baseball. So right now there's just all that drama because the players are like, listen, we got our contracts for a reason and we want to get paid. A salary cap means they're not going to get the full value of their contracts for this year. I can understand that, but I tweeted this out on Twitter, and this is the last thing I'll say about it. Alex Wood on the Dodgers was complaining about how he won't get his full salary this year. If you're an everyday American and you're out of a job right now, 1/10 of Alex Wood's salary is more than the average American salary. So I think he can survive on 1 year of a reduced contract to come back and play baseball and stop being so selfish. That's the last thing I'll say about the players. Just 1 year, take less money. You're still making more than 4 times the amount of the American citizens in this country. So now we can move on. So CJ, you wanted to mention NFL jersey sales through this coronavirus. What did you want to say about that?
Yeah, so I saw a really cool update from Adam Schefter, who released a graphic, which I have here. I'm going to pull it up. It states the top 10 jerseys being sold right now in the NFL, which, regardless of sports not being on at this time of the year, NFL wouldn't have been on anyway. So I don't think it's really affected jersey sales. And I think the draft had a huge impact, which we will see here. So the state of Florida owns 9 out of 10 of the top 10 jerseys being sold right now in the NFL. And I will pull these up right here. So yeah. So number 1, Tua Tagovailoa, Dolphins Aqua. Number 2, Tua Tagovailoa, Dolphins White. Number 3, Tom Brady, Buccaneers Pewter Alternative Vapor. Number 4, Brady, Buccaneers White Vapor. Number 5, Brady, Buccaneers Red. Number 6, Brady's Buccaneers Red Vapor. 7, Gronkowski, Buccaneers Pewter Alternative. Number 8, Joe Burrow. And then number 9, Rob Gronkowski, Buccaneers Red. Number 10, Brady, Buccaneers Pewter Alternative. So that's crazy. I cannot remember the last time the Miami Dolphins had someone in the top 10 of jersey sales, let alone number 1. I don't think I think this is since Dan Marino. And that just shows right there that regardless of, even if Tua Tagovailoa doesn't even step on the field, the Dolphins made the right choice. Even if Justin Herbert goes absolutely lights out this year through the back half of the games when he starts to really play for the Los Angeles Chargers, the Dolphins still made the right decision. This was not just about Tua's injury. This was not just about having a mobile quarterback or whatever. It was about having a face of the franchise. And the Dolphins killed it. And this guy is already a rock star in this league, and he hasn't even stepped on the field and might not even play his first year. So I thought that was really neat, especially in a time when there's not much sports news, that these jersey sales rankings are heavily favoring a newly drafted player who hasn't even played and a guy that just signed for Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So it's pretty neat.
Yeah, and it's a great sign for the NFL too because, we know that Florida is one of the most popular decisions for where they might have to play if they have to combine teams at playing stadiums. Hey, Florida's a really good place for football. A lot of people love it. There's so many colleges here that have football programs, and then the Bucs and the Dolphins are at places where they haven't been in years. So, it's kind of showing itself there. And I'm actually looking for, here it is. So if you're interested in NFL jerseys and how they're made, we actually did an interview at Radio Row at the Super Bowl, CJ and I, with Jonathan Wright, who is he's one of the key decision makers at the top of the NFL. in terms of uniform design and all other NFL wear. So if you're interested in this sort of thing, please check out that interview. He was a really nice guy, and that's on our YouTube channel. I might actually upload that to our podcast, to Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify. So stay tuned for that. It was a great interview. So now we're going to move on here and talk about players getting arrested in the NFL. It's been a problem. So I haven't really been following it much, CJ. I know that I think it was 4 players in 4 days got arrested in the NFL. Do you know the details around that?
Yeah, so obviously you saw the big one right now, which is DeAndre Baker, who got arrested. He is pleading not guilty for any of the armed burglary charges, but I don't think that any of those are going to stand. 4 NFL players were taken into custody on Saturday of this last week. The first player that was arrested was Washington wide receiver Cody Latimer in an incident that started with a shots fired call shortly after midnight. And then during the day on Saturday, 2 NFL players, Seahawks cornerback Quinton Dunbar, who is a familiar face in the league, and Giants cornerback DeAndre Baker, one of your players, both turned themselves in. Arrest warrants were issued for the 2 players on Thursday after Baker was accused of using a semi-automatic firearm on Wednesday to rob multiple people, with Dunbar's help of more than $11,000 in cash plus watches and other valuables worth more than $60K. And then on Saturday evening, the big one, Bills defensive lineman Ed Oliver, who was last year's top 10 draft pick for the Buffalo Bills, he was arrested on charges of DWI and unlawful possession of a weapon. So, excluding the Ed Oliver thing, because that happens a little bit more frequently, that, some players get caught driving recklessly and then they have a gun that wasn't registered. It happens a lot, and I'm sure Ed Oliver will get out of that without much on his record. But Quinton Dunbar and DeAndre Baker, I just don't understand that. They are NFL players that have been starters that are paid very good money in the NFL. What are you doing? Like, why are you bringing a gun and robbing people? People that need that money of about $60,000 when you play in the NFL, just to ruin your career. They'll never play again, and then they're probably never going to see that money that was on their contract. It's pretty fucking dumb, if you ask me. So I'm really confused, but this is a big storyline right now.
I mean, I couldn't have said it better myself. I mean, there's just like, you're in the NFL, you've made it, you're on an NFL team. That's something that not a lot of people get to do, and you turn to crime. It's just, I don't see why you would do it. And yeah, so that, I guess that's those are our takes on that. So now let's move on to Dak Prescott, who's being an idiot in a different way. He's denying a really big contract right now, a contract offer from the Dallas Cowboys. 5 years, $175 million. Dak Prescott said no to that. I don't know why. He is not worth the value of that contract. And, this whole time I've kind of been on the side of, the Cowboys should probably keep Dak. He's a top 10 quarterback, very underrated. I know there's some stats that some people don't like where, sometimes he's overthrowing receivers. Amari Cooper should have had a better season. He has the best O-line. He's got Zeke, blah, blah, blah. An offensive coach with Jason Garrett. So there's a ton of reasons why he should do well. But at the end of the day, he is not worth that contract whatsoever. You're talking about, I get it. He's a top 10 quarterback, but Matt Stafford's better than Dak. He's not getting paid that money. Tom Brady never got that contract. Drew Brees never got that contract. So why the hell is Dak Prescott entitled to that type of money? Especially when the Cowboys are paying Zeke and Amari Cooper already and Jalen Smith.
Yeah, this whole thing's really weird. It almost makes me feel like there's something going on in Dak Prescott's life where he just needs this guaranteed money.
Yeah, right?
It's almost like the exact opposite of what happened in the Last Dance with Scottie Pippen. Scottie Pippen, obviously much better basketball player than Dak Prescott is a football player, but when it comes to contract negotiations, Dak's doing the exact opposite. He's like, no, I want more, I want more, I want more, but he's completely overvaluing himself instead of undervaluing or properly valuating what his actual worth is. So right here, I have it pulled up. He wants, in the 5th year, $45 million. That's insane.
Like, weird.
He is, it's one thing for both parties to be a couple $1 million off in different directions, but for Dak to be a full $12 million off
from what the Cowboys are really valuing him at, which is still 33 million, 32 million in my opinion is a stretch. I think that the Dallas Cowboys are valuing him around $31 million is insane. If I'm Dak Prescott, take that damn money because no one else is going to give you that.
No one. I mean, just
It's
look around the
insane.
league. Who needs a
It's
quarterback?
absolutely insane. $45 million in the 5th year. It's ridiculous.
Exactly. Not only that's not even the first year. That's the 5th year. So he's 5 years older. I mean, he's out of his prime at that point. You're paying him $45 million.
Yeah, that's Patrick Mahomes money.
Right. And Mahomes doesn't even have that contract yet. Lamar Jackson hasn't been paid yet. Baker Mayfield has a shitty contract. I mean, he deserves it, but shouldn't have even mentioned Baker Mayfield. That was stupid. But yeah, I mean, who would pay Dak though? Because who needs a quarterback in the NFL? It's New England, who knows what they're doing right now with that, and then Jacksonville because as much as JP loves Gardner Minshew, he's not the future. He's a backup quarterback. He'll be the next Ryan Fitzpatrick, kind of being on 20 teams in his career. But other than that, no one needs an NFL quarterback right now. Maybe Pittsburgh. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. I completely agree. I mean, you know, maybe next offseason you'll see a few quarterbacks that, were let go by teams and they're going to go in a different direction. It happens every offseason, but Dak Prescott asking for $45 million. It's not a single team in the NFL that's going to give him that. That's Patrick Mahomes money. That's Aaron Rodgers money. That's Russell Wilson money, and he's not even in the same stratosphere of those guys.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really confused by it. But if you do the math, he wants $35 million a year, and in the 5th year he wants 45. So if you do 4 times 35 million, he wants $140 million from the Dallas Cowboys, and then it'll all total up to $185 million, which then equals $37 million a year, which means the Cowboys are $2 million per year away from an agreement just off the bat. That's without the 5th year.
And that, to me, it would be the second bad financial decision in a row, considering they just drafted CeeDee Lamb and now they're paying Amari $100 million. So they don't even need Amari anymore. They have CeeDee Lamb. So it's 2 decisions in a row that could be detrimental to their overall team.
And in my opinion, the way that they're going is they're going to be overpaying their offensive weapons so much that they're not going to have any trenches. That D line's going to deteriorate because they're not going to have money. That O line's going to deteriorate because they're not going to have any money. The cornerbacks, they didn't really do much to address cornerback after
Byron Jones went to the Dolphins.
Byron Jones just left the Dallas Cowboys. He was their star corner. But what they're doing is they're investing money in wide receivers, weapons, and a quarterback. And yeah, that gets you kind of far. I mean, look at the Kansas City Chiefs. But the thing is, Dak Prescott isn't Patrick Mahomes. So what's going to happen is that they're just going to have an offense with some shiny weapons, but no one to protect them and no one to drive the play down the field. So I don't really know what's going to happen. But look, Dak Prescott isn't going to get this money anywhere else. So I'm sure they'll come up with a deal, but it's going to be highly overpaid. And honestly, credit to Dak Prescott and his agent because they're going to end up getting more money than Dallas was willing to give at the beginning.
Oh, yeah. They know Dallas really has no choice. I mean, yes, they got Andy Dalton, but really? I mean, like we all know Andy Dalton in the playoffs. I don't think he's even won a playoff game. He's like the least clutch quarterback I've ever seen. I mean, I think he got shut out twice on Monday Night Football 2 years in a row at home.
In my opinion, if I'm the Dallas Cowboys, and this is going to sound kind of crazy, but I saw Colin Cowherd talk about it, and I kind of agree. Scratch the whole Dak Prescott thing. Let Andy Dalton run the show. It's not going to be bad at all. He's going to be able to throw to Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, a good O-line, and have a running back. Dalton hasn't had that. Andy Dalton can go 10 wins with that team, 11 wins. I'm a firm believer. Now in the playoffs, I'm not a believer in Andy Dalton, but he's going to get them there. And Jerry Jones wants to be in the playoffs. He's sick of the 8-8s, the 9-7s that doesn't get to the playoffs. Andy Dalton will get you to the playoffs with that team. After that, I don't know. But the thing is they've got enough assets on their team to move up for a trade for a Justin Fields, for some other quarterback that's going to be coming out for next year. So who knows? But I don't know. This Dak Prescott thing is becoming extremely complicated. And there's a reason why they signed Andy Dalton. There's a reason why the Andy Dalton's back up there.
Yeah.
And it's not that they did not sign him to sit next to the offensive coordinator and the head coach and just talk it through the game and signal to Prescott what needs to happen. They signed Andy Dalton because they don't know if these Dak Prescott negotiations are going to go well. So at that point, you've got a very capable guy waiting.
Oh, I completely agree with you there. And, Hey, the Cowboys don't settle for 8-8 anymore, but they sure don't care about winning Super Bowls because it's been quite some time since they've done that. I had to throw in a little slander there as a New York Giants fan. But as a Giants fan, though, I am rooting for them to sign Dak because I know they'd be crippled in the cap. So, yeah, as a Giants fan, selfishly, I want the Cowboys to sign Dak to that ridiculously overvalued contract. Yeah, CJ, I know we have a few listeners here as we wrap up this show. I never get into nerdy stuff on here, but the freaking Justice League Zack Snyder version is being released on HBO Max. I know we're both DC fans, so that's pretty dope, and that's coming out
It's
next
gonna be
year.
good. Hopefully, Zack Snyder does well with the gloomy action, where it's high flying action with a lot of hitting, and he doesn't really hold back. And I kind of like that switch up between Marvel and DC. DC's not a lot of humor; it's very serious superhero action, which I like. And then Marvel's obviously the witty comedy and whatnot. So I think it's going to be really good to watch.
Yeah, it's for sure, and some cool Star Wars stuff coming in soon as well. But this is a sports podcast though, so but you can listen to us on a bunch of different platforms. On Apple Podcasts, we actually just got on iHeartRadio, so that's been really cool. We have Spotify, Podcast, Radio Public, a bunch of others, YouTube as well. You can follow us on Twitter at Strict Sports FAU, on Facebook at Strictly Sports FAU, Instagram the same thing as well. And we might have some new news coming soon as well. We can't say anything about it right now, but some news is coming soon. And the next pod should be either next Tuesday or Thursday. So for this edition of Strictly Sports, for CJ Uri, I am Jacob Brown, and we will see you next time.